The emotional twist behind my last goodbye. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The last thing my brother ever said to me wasn't "I love you." It was, "Don't let her burn it." He whispered it through a cracked prison phone, his knuckles white against the glass, like the words weighed more than the orange jumpsuit on his shoulders. I was 23 then, stupidly proud, still convinced I'd come to that visitation room as a favor, not because I needed him. Now I was 29, standing in the rain outside St. Bridget's funeral home, and the envelope in my hand felt warm like a pulse. It was thick, sealed with clear tape, my name printed in block letters, Caleb M. Hart. Under it, a date, January 14th, 2012. The day after Noah took the plea. I worked nights as a bus mechanic for the city transit yard. Grease under my nails, earplugs in my pocket, the kind of job nobody photographed for Facebook. Noah used to joke that I kept the city moving. Then he'd flinch like he'd said something too kind. Inside the chapel, Mom, Renee, stood stiff as a fence post, accepting hugs with a face that looked practiced. Aunt Tasha hovered nearby, scanning the room like she expected somebody to steal the casket. I hadn't spoken to Noah in 6 years. Not since that last visit, when I told him he deserved what he got. I said it like it was justice, not fear. Aunt Tasha caught me by the elbow before I could walk past her. "You got it?" she asked, eyes flicking to the envelope. "What is this?" I kept my voice low. "Why now?" "Because he knew you'd finally be ready to hate the right person," she said, and pressed a small, cold key into my palm. "Storage unit. Same one he paid for from inside." I stared at the key, then at the envelope, then at Mom's back, rigid, untouchable, like grief was a suit she'd buttoned up. If I opened this, I'd be reopening a story our whole family survived by believing. And if the date on that envelope meant what I thought it meant, then Noah had been planning his own truth for 14 years. The phone in my pocket buzzed once, from an unknown number. When people at the funeral said, "You only get one brother," I nodded like I didn't already know what it cost to waste one. Noah was 6 years older, which meant he remembered things I didn't. Dad leaving, the eviction notices, the nights Mom cried in the bathroom with the faucet running. By the time I was old enough to understand, Noah had already decided he was the shield. Mom told everyone a neat story about him. He was always difficult. He ran with the wrong crowd. He wouldn't listen. The kind of story that made her look like a tired hero instead of a woman making impossible choices. I used to buy it because it let me feel clean. When I was 13, Noah took me to the river behind the old paper mill and taught me how to skip stones. He wore a hoodie with a ripped cuff and smelled like gasoline from Odd Jobs. "Promise me something," he said, squinting at the water like he was reading it. "If I ever do something stupid, don't follow me." I laughed. "You mean like get arrested?" He didn't laugh back. "Like take the hit for somebody who won't even thank you." I should have asked what he meant. I didn't. I cared more about not looking scared. The guilt planted itself the summer I turned 15, the night the warehouse on Dunbar Street went up in flames. Everybody in our neighborhood knew that building. Empty pallets, copper wiring, and the kind of teenagers who liked to dare each other. Noah told me not to go. Mom told me to stay inside. I went anyway because my friends were going and because I wanted, for once, to be the one Noah couldn't control. The fire was a roar and a glow behind the chain-link fence, and I remember the heat licking my face and the adrenaline making me stupid. Someone handed me a plastic gas can. Someone said, "Do it." I don't even remember whose voice. The next day, a security guard named Martin Keene was dead from smoke inhalation. Mom stood in the kitchen, knuckles pressed into the countertop, and Noah stared at me like he could see the gas can still in my hands. "You tell anyone?" he asked. I shook my head too fast. "No, nobody knows." Noah's jaw tightened. "Then keep it that way, Caleb." I thought he was protecting me from trouble. 2 weeks later, Noah walked into the station and said it was him. The prison visitation room always smelled like bleach and old coffee, like somebody was trying too hard to erase what happened there. Noah sat on the other side of the glass with a new scar along his hairline and a bruise blooming under one eye. He tried to make it a joke. "Look at you," he said into the phone, forcing a grin. "City mechanic. You finally got your hands on something that runs." I wanted to be softer. I wanted to say, "Are you okay?" But my throat was full of all the years he'd embarrassed me in front of friends, all the times he'd acted like my dad, and not my brother. You didn't have to take the deal, I said. If you were innocent, you should have fought. Noah's grin cracked. Innocent's expensive. Mom could have helped, I snapped. She could have. He cut me off, voice suddenly flat. Don't say her name like that. I stared at him. Why are you protecting her? She's letting you rot. Noah leaned closer to the glass until I could see the red in his eyes. Listen to me, Caleb. I did what I had to. For who? I asked. For you? For your image as the screw-up martyr? He flinched like I'd hit him. For a second, his hand lifted, then dropped, like he wanted to reach through the glass and couldn't. You think this is about me? He whispered. You think I like being the villain in her story? I felt my face heat. Then tell the truth. Tell them what happened at Dunbar. Noah's eyes darted, not to me, but past me, toward the guard near the door, toward the cameras in the corners. His voice lowered. Some truths don't free you, he said. They just pick a new person to bury. I swallowed hard. So that's it. You're just gonna disappear in here? Noah's jaw worked, like he was chewing something bitter. He slid a folded piece of paper under the small slot at the bottom of the glass, fast enough the guard didn't notice. Don't open it here, he murmured. And if anything happens to me. I laughed, sharp and cruel, because fear makes you mean. Nothing's gonna happen. You're not special. Noah's face went still. Hurt flickered, then something older. Acceptance. Okay, he said quietly. Then this is my last goodbye. Before I hung up, Noah mouthed two words that froze me. The call about Noah came on a Tuesday at 6:12 a.m. while I scrubbed brake dust off in the transit yard bathroom. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. When I picked up, a woman's voice said, Mr. Hart, this is Nurse Patel with State Correctional. I'm calling about your brother, Noah Hart. My stomach dropped so hard I leaned over the sink. He was transferred to the infirmary last night. She continued, careful and practiced. There was an incident. I'm sorry. What kind of incident? I asked, already hearing the answer in the pause. We did everything we could, she said. You can contact the facility for details. I drove to Mom's house in a fog, the sunrise turning the industrial skyline orange like a bruise. Renee opened the door in her robe, hair pinned, face dry. You heard, she said, as if she'd been waiting for a package. How? I demanded. How did you? They called me first, she said. I'm his mother. My mouth tasted like metal. What happened? Renee's gaze slid away, not from grief, but from something like irritation. He had complications. He made choices. Complications from what? I pressed. Was he hurt? Was he sick? Caleb, she snapped, voice sharp enough to cut. Do not turn this into a circus. Aunt Tasha appeared behind her, and for a moment I saw them like I had as a kid. Mom controlling the narrative, Tasha watching the corners. Let him ask, Tasha said. Renee's eyes flashed. You don't get to. I get to remember, Tasha shot back. And I remember a boy who didn't deserve this. Mom's face hardened. He did what he did. End of story. That sentence, end of story, was her favorite weapon. She'd used it on me my whole life. Questions ended. Truth stayed buried. At the funeral, she told the pastor Noah struggled, thanked the community for praying, and never once said the word prison. People nodded along because it was easier. After the last car left, Renee pulled me into the kitchen and spoke through clenched teeth. You will not dig, she said. You will let him rest. Aunt Tasha met my eyes over Mom's shoulder and mouth. Don't. Then Mom added, almost casually, and give me whatever he left you. My grip tightened on the envelope in my jacket pocket. I didn't give Mom the envelope. I lied. Nothing, I said, shrugging like it was junk mail. Just old paperwork. Renee's eyes narrowed, but she let me leave with a warning look that felt like a hand around my throat. In my apartment, I sat at the tiny kitchen table I'd bought off Craigslist and peeled through the tape with a flathead screwdriver. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it twice. Inside was a stack of photocopies and one folded letter on lined notebook paper. Noah's handwriting, sharp, slanted, impatient. Caleb, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone or you finally stopped running. Under the letter was a printout from the county clerk's website. Case number, CR 12-04827. Title, State v. Noah Hart. I'd seen that number in the newspaper years ago. What I hadn't seen was the page clipped behind it. It was stamped in red, confidential juvenile addendum, do not disclose. And right there, In a box labeled minor participant was my name, Caleb Marcus Hart. Date of birth. Address from our old duplex. A line that made my mouth go dry. Latent print match. Subject C. M. H. Gas can handle. Lab report August 19th, 2011. I stared until the words blurred. I hadn't imagined the gas can. I hadn't been a paranoid kid. Someone had lifted my prints. Someone had written me into the file. And Noah had still walked in and said it was him. There was also a receipt from Bay Street Storage, dated March 2nd, 2012, showing monthly payments made from a prison trust account. Noah had been paying for a unit for 14 years. Tucked in the back was a voicemail transcript, printed like evidence. From Noah Hart, facility line. To Caleb Hart. Timestamp, January 8th, 2024, 11:43 p.m. Message: if mom tells you it's over, she's lying. Go to Unit 312. My skin prickled. January 8th was last month, 2 days before Noah had complications. Either he knew he was about to die, or somebody made sure he did. I grabbed the small key Aunt Tasha gave me and drove toward Bay Street Storage. When I pulled up, Unit 312's padlock was already hanging open. The unit smelled like dust and hot metal. A fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead. Someone had been here. Boxes were stacked too neatly, and scrape marks streaked the concrete where something heavy had been dragged. I scanned the shelves, photo albums, old winter coats, but my eyes kept returning to one clean outline, a large metal toolbox, recently removed. On the back wall, taped behind a framed school picture of me and Noah, was another envelope. This one wasn't taped shut. It was folded and creased from being handled. It held a single sentence, written in Noah's hand. If it's open, you're late. Trust Tasha. Ask about the signature. My fingers went numb around the paper. I backed out and called Aunt Tasha from my car, locking the doors. She answered on the second ring. You went. The lock was cut, I said. Someone's been in there. What signature? There was a long exhale on the line. Oh, Caleb. What does that mean? My voice cracked. Tell me what it means. Tasha didn't soften it. She never did. It means your mother signed the plea deal paperwork. Not as next of kin, as the person who benefited. I stared at the steering wheel, knuckles turning white. She couldn't. She could, Tasha said, anger tight under her calm. Because the file had your name on it, and she couldn't lose another son. My mouth went dry. So Noah didn't save himself, she cut in. He saved you, and he paid for it every day. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive straight to Mom's house and rip the truth out of her with my bare hands. But the note said trust Tasha, and the cut lock said somebody else cared about what was inside that missing toolbox. I need proof, I whispered. You need to be careful, Tasha replied. You think you're the first person to ask questions? I looked back at Unit 312. The office building at the end of the lot had a security camera angled toward the rows. And then my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging, Caleb. I turned my head and saw a figure standing between the units, watching me. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the red stamp, confidential. In the morning, I took a day off and went to the downtown police station. The records window had a sign, public requests, cash or money order only. The clerk slid me a form. Case number, CR 12-04827. She blinked. That's old. It's family. $24.50 per packet, she said. Supplementals cost extra. I paid. While she disappeared into the back, a man in a plain button-down stepped out of a hallway and watched me like he already knew my secrets. Caleb Hart, he asked. Yeah. Detective Ramos, he said, flashing a badge. You're pulling your brother's file. I'm requesting public records, I muttered. Ramos leaned in, voice low. People confess for reasons that aren't guilt. My throat tightened. Why are you talking to me? Because your brother reached out, he said. He mailed something to my office 3 weeks ago. It arrived after the incident. The clerk called my name and slid a thick packet through the slot. Receipt stapled on top, February 6th, 10:17 a.m. In my car, I flipped until the pages stopped shaking. Incident report, Dunbar Street warehouse fire. Victim, Martin Keene. Evidence, gas can, recovered. Latent prints, match, CM, H. No match, NH. No match. Lab report ID 11 to 8841 said the same thing in colder language. Prints consistent with C, M, H. The accelerant sample came back as common lawn fuel. A grainy still from a security camera showed two silhouettes by the fence, one tall, one my height. I kept turning until the witness statements. One page made my stomach drop. Typed. Signed. Dated August 21st, 2011. Witness, Renee Hart. Statement. I saw my son Noah with a red gas can near the warehouse. I read it again, waiting for reality to correct itself. Ramos knocked on my window. When I lowered it, he held a small manila envelope. Your brother wanted you to have this, he said. But answer one thing first. What? I whispered. Why did your mother lie under oath to save you? Ramos didn't hand me the manila envelope like it was a gift. He handed it over like it was a grenade. Read it, he said. But know what you're reading. I tore it open. Inside was a photocopy of a prison notary page, blue stamp and date. Affidavit of Truth, Noah James Hart. Date, January 5th, 2024. Facility, State Correctional Unit C. My eyes snagged on one line, and everything in me went cold. My guilty plea protected a minor participant, CM.H., identified in the juvenile addendum. There were attachments. A restitution ledger with neat columns and amounts so small they felt humiliating. Restitution payment, Keene Family Fund. March 2012, $25. 00. April 2012, $25. 00. December 2023, $50. 00. Noah had been paying the family of the man who died because of me, month after month. Under that was a letter addressed to Detective Ramos, mailed from the facility. The postmark was smeared, but the date was clear, January 9th, 2024. Detective Ramos, if you're reading this, they didn't let me make it out. Don't waste time proving I'm innocent. Prove why I wasn't allowed to be. I swallowed hard and looked up at Ramos. Who's they? He exhaled through his nose. That's the part one can't prove yet. Then why give me this? I asked. If it points back at me. Because your brother planned it, Ramos said. He timed it. He waited until the juvenile angle was buried deep enough that the state wouldn't want to touch it again. I stared at the ledger, at the years of tiny payments, and something ugly rose in my chest. Love mixed with rage. Noah didn't just take the fall. He carried the bill for it. What was he hiding? I asked, voice shaking. Besides me. Ramos tapped the packet. Not besides you. Because of you. He kept evidence that could have reopened the case, and he sat on it for 14 years. I flipped the last page and saw a photocopy of a form I'd never seen before. Juvenile Acknowledgement of Involvement, signed. Name, Caleb Marcus Hart. Signature, __ Date, August 22nd, 2011. And under the signature line was a shaky scrawl that looked like my hand. I couldn't breathe because I didn't remember signing anything until one sound came back. My mother whispering, just sign. Baby, just sign. Aunt Tasha met me outside the boarded-up duplex on Birch Avenue. She said she didn't want Renee spinning this into grief. I brought you here because this is where you signed, Tasha said. The night of the fire hit me in flashes, sirens, neighbors, Mom's fingers crushing my wrist. She knew it was me, I muttered. Tasha nodded. She knew the second you walked in smelling like fuel. What did she do? I asked. Next morning, 2 detectives and a juvenile officer came to the kitchen, she said. They told Renee if you cooperated, it would be sealed. They slid a form across the table. My stomach dropped. The acknowledgement. You were 15, Tasha said. You signed and cried, and your mother kept telling you it was just paperwork. And Noah? I asked. Noah walked in halfway through, she said. He saw your name and went dead quiet. He told them to leave. They didn't. I clenched my jaw. Then why did he plead? Tasha's eyes hardened. Because Renee decided to control the damage. She typed up that witness statement, said she saw Noah with the gas can. She thought if Noah went down as the lone culprit, the rest of you would survive. You mean she lied under oath? I said. She did, Tasha replied. Then she went to Noah before the plea and said, if you fight, they'll open Caleb's file. They'll take him, and they'll charge me for lying. My throat tightened. So she cornered him. Tasha didn't flinch. She was terrified, and Noah looked at her and said, "Fine, let him keep his future." I blinked hard. So he sacrificed himself because Mom asked. No, Tasha snapped, voice breaking. He sacrificed himself because you were his little brother. I stood there, staring at the plywood, realizing my sealed mistake had never really been buried, just held by the people who loved me in the worst ways. I drove straight to Mom's house with Ramos's affidavit on the seat beside me. When Renee opened the door, her first look told me everything at once. Renee didn't explode when I showed her the signed juvenile form. She did something worse. She smiled like I was still 15, and she could still steer me with one hand. "Caleb," she said softly, "you're exhausted. You're grieving. Put that away." "It's my signature," I said, voice shaking. "You told me it was nothing." Renee's eyes flicked to the street behind me. "Come inside." "I didn't." "Did you lie in court?" Her jaw tightened. I protected my argument. "My argument," I repeated, like I'm a case file. "You're my son," she snapped, the softness gone. "And Noah made his choices." "Because you cornered him," I said. Renee stepped closer until I could smell her perfume, the same one she wore to church and funerals. "Do you want to ruin his memory?" she hissed. "Do you want people to know you were there?" "What people?" I shot back. "You told the whole town he struggled, and you couldn't even say prison." Her face hardened. "If you dig up yourself." For a second, I almost folded. Shame is a heavy leash, and she'd held it my whole life. I pictured the dead guard. I pictured my younger self with the gas can. What if the truth didn't free anyone? What if it just made me the villain Noah spent years pretending to be? That night Renee texted, "Dinner tomorrow. Aunt Tasha too. We need to talk like adults." I knew it was a trap, and I went anyway. At the table, Renee served pot roast like nothing had happened. She talked about work, the weather, the neighbor's new dog. Then she set her fork down and looked straight at me. "You will stop," she said, calm as prayer. "For your own good." Aunt Tasha stared at her. "Renee, don't." Renee didn't blink. "Noah is gone. Let him stay buried." I heard myself whisper, he wasn't guilty. Renee's smile never reached her eyes. Guilt is just what the living assign. When I left, a black pickup rolled past my car twice, slow. Back at my apartment, my door was unlocked. I knew I'd locked it. Inside, the kitchen drawers were open. My file packet was gone. The envelope, the affidavit copies, gone. But on the counter sat one thing, perfectly centered, like a message. On my kitchen counter sat Noah's toolbox, drenched and freshly wiped clean. The toolbox wasn't mine. It never had been. When I opened it, the smell hit first. Metal, sweat, and something faintly sweet like cheap cologne. Noah's. The top tray held normal stuff. Sockets, a half-used roll of electrical tape, a city transit badge from a job he'd lost years before. Then I found the false bottom. Under a thin sheet of foam was a prepaid flip phone wrapped in a plastic bag, wet. Beside it, 2 flash drives, a bundle of certified copies with the county seal, and a note in Noah's handwriting. "Make copies. Don't trust the house. Meet Ramos at Courthouse Records. Bring Tasha." My hands shook as I flipped the phone open. One saved audio file. Title, "Goodbye." I hit play. Noah's voice filled my kitchen, low and steady, like he was trying not to wake somebody. "Caleb," he said, "if you're hearing this, I'm either dead or they finally shut me up." My chest tightened. "I didn't touch the gas can," he continued. "Your prints were on it, and they knew. Mom knew. She signed and lied because she was scared. I don't hate her for it, but you can't let her rewrite me as the bad son forever." The recording crackled. Noah's breath sounded close to the mic. "I kept the real transcript," he said. "The part they don't read in court. The part where they asked me to name the minor and I refused." I paused it, staring at my stained countertop. I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Not yet. I drove straight to Aunt Tasha's place and we photocopied everything. Affidavit, lab report, witness statement, plea transcript. Tasha's mouth stayed tight the whole time, but her hands didn't shake once. "He planned this," she murmured. "He waited until you'd listen." Detective Ramos told me to meet him the next morning at the courthouse records office. Public space, cameras everywhere. "Bring Renee if you can," he said on the phone. "If she hears it in a hallway, she can't deny it happened." So I texted Mom one sentence. "I need you at courthouse records at 10 a.m. It's about Noah's file." She replied 2 minutes later. "Fine, but this ends tomorrow." Then Ramos sent another text that made my stomach drop. The Keene family requested to attend. Are you prepared to face them? Courthouse hallways had a special kind of silence. Too many lives rearranged under fluorescent lights. We met outside Records Room B at 9:58 a.m. Ramos held a folder. Aunt Tasha stood beside me like a brace. Mom arrived last. Renee wore black slacks and grief-like armor. She looked at Ramos like he was an accusation. I'm here, she said. Make it quick. A couple in their 60s approached, hands clasped tight. The woman's eyes were swollen in a way that told me this wasn't new pain. Ramos nodded. Mr. and Mrs. Keene. My throat closed. I'm Caleb. Mrs. Keene studied my face. You're Noah's brother, she said softly. The one he talked about. Renee stiffened. This is unnecessary. Ramos opened his folder on a bench. Certified copies. Transcript. Affidavit. Mom's jaw set. He confessed. End of story. I set Noah's flip phone on the bench. No. This is... Renee's eyes snapped to it. Put that away. I hit play. Noah's voice filled the hallway. Steady, exhausted. I didn't touch the gas can. Your prints were on it. Mom knew. She signed and lied. Don't let her rewrite me. Renee didn't break. She hardened. You're going to disgrace him in public? She hissed at me. After everything I did to keep you safe? Mrs. Keene made a small sound, like she'd been punched. Safe, she echoed. Ramos slid the witness statement forward. Ma'am, you signed this under penalty of perjury. Renee's chin lifted. I said what I had to say. A man died, I whispered. And I was raising 2 boys alone. She shot back, voice too loud for the hallway. Heads turned. You were 15. They were going to take you. Noah was already bad. He could survive prison. Tasha's voice trembled. Renee, stop. Renee didn't. I wasn't losing my last good son, too. Last good son. Mrs. Keene's eyes filled. So my Martin was the price, she whispered. I finally found my voice. It was me, I said, and the words tasted like ash. I was there. Ramos raised a hand and said, Caleb, sign today if you want truth. I signed the statement in a cramped office that smelled like stale paper and hand sanitizer. My name looked too small at the bottom of something that heavy. Ramos didn't promise me justice. He promised process. Your statement goes to the DA, he said. They decide what gets reopened. Perjury is on the table for Renee. So is a review of Noah's plea. Don't expect miracles fast. Renee didn't wait for fast. She exploded in the parking lot. You selfish little, she started, then caught herself when a deputy walked by. Her voice dropped to a razor. Do you know what you just did to this family? I stared at her. What family, Mom? The one built on Noah being disposable? Her eyes flashed. He chose it. No, I said, finally steady. You chose it. He just paid it. She got in her car and left without another word. Aunt Tasha drove me home and said, You did the right thing, like a prayer. Work didn't pause for grief. When I showed up late the next day, my supervisor just said, Go home. I stared at Noah's ledger until the numbers blurred. $25. $50. Month after month, like penance measured in coins. Mrs. Keene called that evening. Her voice was quiet, exhausted. I don't know what to do with this, she admitted. But, thank you for telling me. Noah wrote us letters from prison. He never once blamed you. I swallowed hard. He should have. He didn't, she said. That's what makes it cruel. 2 days later, Ramos texted. IA opened an inquiry into Noah's death. Keep your copies safe. The word inquiry made my skin crawl. Noah's complications suddenly sounded like a phrase designed to end questions. Then my apartment doorbell rang. No knock, just the bell, twice, urgent. On the doormat sat a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photocopy stamped Inmate Death Review. Pending, and someone had circled one line in red. Witness reports. Inmate attempted to file grievance on January 9, 2024. My hands went cold, because that was the day after Noah mailed Ramos his letter. 3 days later, I got a call from the prison warden. The prison warden sounded like he'd rehearsed the call. Mr. Hart, he said, I can't discuss specifics while the review is pending. But I want you to know your brother filed a grievance the day before his death. What was it about? I asked, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles hurt. A pause. He reported feeling unsafe. He also reported concerns about his personal property. My property. My voice cracked. He had a storage unit. A toolbox. Another pause, longer this time. I'm not confirming details. I'm advising you to cooperate if investigators contact you. Then the line went dead. I started therapy 2 weeks later because I kept waking with my teeth clenched. The therapist asked one question until it stopped feeling like an attack. What would you say to 15-year-old you? I said, run. Then I said, tell. Then I said the truth. I'm sorry. I kept working at the transit yard, clinging to routine. Mrs. Keene asked if I'd meet her privately. No cameras, no courtrooms. We sat on a bench outside the river trail where Noah taught me to skip stones. She brought a worn envelope. Letters Noah had sent her from prison, folded so many times the creases looked like scars. He wrote this the month you stopped visiting, she said, handing me one. I didn't open it. Not yet. I don't deserve. You don't get to decide what he wanted, she said gently. That was Noah's whole point. Aunt Tasha helped me file a request to correct Noah's public record, even if it couldn't undo what the years had done. Ramos texted updates in short bursts. DA reviewing. IA interviewing staff. Keep copies secured. Renee sent one message the entire time. You're dead to me if you keep pushing this. For the first time, I didn't beg her to love me. I wrote back one line. Tell the truth, and we can talk. Then I drove to the storage unit alone, sat on the concrete floor, and finally unfolded the paper Noah slid under the glass years ago. My hands shook as I read the first sentence. The paper Noah slid under the glass was smaller than I remembered, like my guilt had made it bigger. It started with the line that had haunted me for years. Don't let her burn it. Then, in Noah's sharp handwriting, came the twist I didn't know I needed. Caleb, I know what you said to me in that room. I know you meant it, and I know you didn't. Anger is just fear wearing a louder coat. I wasn't asking you to save me. I was asking you to save what was left of you. Renee will try to erase anything that makes her look weak. She'll burn papers, photos, even people. Don't let her burn the parts of me that were good. If you're reading this, you're older now. Maybe you've finally built a life that isn't just running. Here's the truth. I chose the plea because you were 15 and you deserved a chance to be more than one night. I paid restitution because Martin Keene deserved to be more than a headline. And I stayed quiet because the only thing worse than prison was watching you become me. I sat on the storage unit floor and cried until my ribs hurt. Not because I'd been exposed, because I'd been loved so stubbornly it survived my worst words. Ramos called a week later. The DA agreed to review Noah's plea for integrity concerns. Internal Affairs opened a case about staff pressure after Noah filed his grievance. Renee avoided my calls, but Tasha told me she'd finally stopped telling people Noah struggled and started saying, Noah saved us. Mrs. Keene and I met again at the river. I apologized without excuses. She didn't absolve me, but she let me place a small plaque by the trail. Martin Keene, remembered. Noah Hart, truth told. The emotional twist behind my last goodbye wasn't that Noah forgave me. It was that he'd been saying goodbye to the lie, not to his love. My therapist said, accountability isn't self-hatred, it's action. So I volunteered for the city's fire prevention program, showed up at schools with a mechanic's hands and a brother's story, and stopped treating silence like loyalty.